Thanks for joining us on the Week in Review. I'm Paris Schutz. Chicago roiled after the release of a video showing the fatal police shooting of Dexter Reed. It shows plainclothes officers at a traffic stop after firing 96 shots in 41 seconds. Reed had purportedly fired against the officers first. Chicago's mayor and community groups have expressed concern, and today, a frustrated Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling weighed in on the release of information by the Civilian Office of Police Accountability that a purported seatbelt violation triggered the deadly encounter.
That information spreads like wildfire. A police officer was shot. A man lost his life. This isn't something that we should take lightly. This isn't something that should play out in the court of public opinion. Proper investigations should be done before we start litigating online. We know what these types of situations can lead to. It's a powder keg. Do we want to see our city burn? We're setting this on fire, and we're throwing fuel on it before we know all of the facts.
Joining us to talk about that and all the other week's news, our own Amanda Vinicky, Laura Washington from the Chicago Tribune and ABC7, Becky Vivi from Chalkbeat, and Rick Pearson, also from the Chicago Tribune. Let's get right to it. What do you make of Superintendent Larry Snelling's response there? Certainly angry that that video is out and that folks are already sort of jumping to conclusions.
Well, you know, he says the city's a powder keg and it might blow up. Well, I think it probably is not blowing up because they've been much more transparent than they've been in the past in terms of this kind of information, releasing the video early on in the investigation so that people can see for themselves. Of course, people are going to express their own opinions, but there will be an investigation, and we'll find out what the real facts are behind this video once the investigation.
He might be upset about that, but after the fallout from Laquan McDonald, the rules changed, and this is part of city code now. These videos do get released of police-involved shootings, so I'm not sure what the superintendent is angry about. This is policy now.
Well, it is policy. He's just angry that it's not policy that he or CPD can control. But having been said, I think this is just such a tragic situation on so many levels. Unlike Laquan McDonald, you have, you know, one, do we believe that this was a legitimate traffic stop for a seatbelt? I think there's questions there. Two, is the response to being pulled over by police to allegedly shoot somebody? Three, is the response to that 96 shots in 41 seconds? I mean, all of this, I think, needs to be broken down and examined in a very comprehensive way, because there is so much wrong here on so many levels.
And certainly there will be multiple investigations. COPA, the police department, internal affairs, the state's attorney, and there's going to be a new state's attorney coming in. You wonder if this investigation will hold over until when Eileen O'Neill Burke, or we should say, assuming she wins the general election. But Amanda, COPA also put out a letter that became public questioning, you know, this stop, questioning the actions of the police officers here. It seems like he might be upset at that too. Did COPA overstep by putting that out?
Well, and this was a letter that I believe was made public because of Freedom of Information Act requests. It was, in essence, leaked that it existed somehow, or word got out that it existed. It's not as if COPA sent out a press release regarding this, but that's where the questions came out from the head of COPA about what the beginning of this, what led to this whole incident, and that was questioning why a seatbelt violation would have a tactical team trying to pull somebody over. We don't know, however, the answer to that question. We don't know. We know that in the police report that's what was marked. We don't know what happened before the police tried to do the pullover. So yes, it does seem as if that was some of Snelling's frustration. I also believe there's frustration on the part of law enforcement as to why officers weren't yet interviewed. It seems to be the message before this was made public, because that does set quite the narrative, not giving the officers an opportunity before public opinion weighs in to share their side of the story. So those are the frustrations from
Snelling. In the McDonald case, it was the other way around. They gave their statements before the video came out. They kind of thought that the video might never come out.
Right, well, and they absolutely did need to be interviewed, but why have they not been interviewed? You know, this was March 21st, and here we are. And the other issue is that, you know, these videos are necessary. These are body cam videos by law that have to be released to the public, and precisely because it's important for the public to know and to see for themselves what happened.
Becky, do you see the superintendent's point that it might taint an investigation, that the court of public opinion now, because these videos are out there, is going to be decided, even though it's just a video, we still don't know for sure what happened here.
Well, everyone's going to have an opinion about it, and they're going to see it how they want to see it. They'll project their own thoughts on it, I'm sure. But I think, to Laura's point and the point of everyone here, this is the policy now. We did make a lot of changes as a city in the wake of the Laquan McDonald tape being released and that whole case playing out. And I think there were obvious concerns throughout all of that that has sparked a shift in this direction of more transparency all along the way, civilians included in the conversation through the COPA board. That is how we are now, working through almost a process that people are not familiar with. And I think that is something that I think is a very interesting thing to see play out.
Well, and your point about the fact that there have been reforms, I think that's a real tragedy here. The consent decree, the federal consent decree was enacted in 2019, and it was supposed to provide for better training, for better oversight, for better supervision of officers so that things like this did not happen.
Right.
And these things are still happening, even despite all the reforms and policy changes.
Which was the whole argument about, yes, the transparency.
Sure.
Like that, if you shine a light on it, it's going to, hopefully help move those things forward. But yes, as you say,
a lot of questions still to answer. We have to move on to some other city news. Rick Pearson, Mayor Johnson, after first apparently agreeing to pony up $70 million to match county and state funds for migrants, then said not so much, now says yes. What accounts for all this flip-flopping?
I would like to know. I really would like to know. I mean, when you had Tony Preckwinkle and Governor Pritzker leaving the initial meeting with him, it was like everybody's on board, and the city's cut is for it $70 million. Then all of a sudden, he's not part of the agreement. Now he's part of the agreement again. I don't. To me, this is kind of representative of the chaos that seems to exist in this administration. And you can't get a straight answer for, in all of this. It's like, why did you agree to it and then pull back? There was never a
Or why
good
the change
answer.
in course? Because supposedly this money is now something that the Johnson administration is advocating for, knowing that there might be more migrants coming because of the Democratic National Convention. It's not as if it's a surprise.
Well,
that was part of it. I mean,
he knew that back when he made the original
exactly. So what is the change in course?
Is he going to get city council to go along and get 26 votes to
I think
pass it?
that's another key question.
Right.
And by the way, that's a question as well on the state side. I mean, I do think that Pritzker has the ability to twist arms. The state budget is far larger, but it's not as if either state legislators or city council members are fully on board with sending money to migrants, given that there are so many other causes that they want to put millions of dollars toward.
And given the timing of the initial conversation was a mid-budget season when he needed votes to get his budget passed. Now we are out of that period. We are in the spring. We are headed into summer. We know with the past 2 years of Operation Lone Star, the buses will pick up in the summer months, and he's probably anticipating additional more waves coming, and so let's do something now as a council. This is a time I can expend some political capital here.
So they're somehow going to find the $70 million. It's not initially in the budget.
Well, it's speculation since they're going to find it in city reserve funds. But I think there are going to be a lot of questions from the city council, and there's going to be a hearing on Monday about how this money will be spent. Because there have been a lot of questions in the past by the Johnson administration's decision-making process in terms of where they've placed shelters, where they've decided to use shelters. And so I think the city council is going to be asking a lot tougher questions than they have in the past.
And whether this is going to come with additional spending to say, hey, if you can find money for this, I want money for my project, for my community
Well, and
as well.
that's why I think from any state assistance, it's not as difficult because they're still log rolling the state budget, and they can plug that into a more comprehensive bill.
Presumably that money's been plugged in somewhere. We don't know it. It's not public yet, but they've crafted that budget knowing it.
All right, some statewide news this week. Rick Pearson, the Illinois Attorney General, is going to investigate some of these so-called pink slime newspapers. They look like really, talks like a duck, squawks like a duck, but it's not a duck. These look like real newspapers, but they're thinly veiled propaganda outlets, usually for the right wing. They apparently publicize voter data without permission. So what's the AG going to investigate?
Well, these are those papers that a lot of people remember during election time that they showed up that they never subscribed.
They have names like West Cook News or something like that.
Cook Review, whatever,
Right.
and they're the work of One, Brian Timponi, who was a former political operative and former journalist in his own mind. He was former spokesman for the House Republican leaders a long time ago, and is being funded by various dark right-wing groups to do.
There's some Uline money in this.
There's Uline money.
And Dan Proft is behind it too.
And Dan Proft is a business ally of Timponi, and he, of course, is very close to Uline as well. And Timponi has recently explained that he's been trying to print voter data. He has pink slime papers all across the United States, something like 1,200 of them, and they're all trying to print voter data under the guise that, well, one, we all know that the election was, stolen because of fraudulent voters. Of course not. It didn't happen. But this is part of that meme of trying to develop that mindset among voters. So they got a database. They're not supposed to, the voting rolls are not supposed to be public for non-political use. Birth dates, addresses, those kinds of things. There is a public voter database. It does not have the same information. They used one that was reserved for political use only, and are now printing it in their various publications throughout the state. Part of it, in some ways, to shame people, because it also lists if you didn't vote. And so this is all under this guise of, this is public service journalism. No, that's crap.
It's not even journalism.
It's not crap. It's printing a list and trying to fall into the masters of these pink slime publications.
And as we're seeing, it's potentially a breach of privacy here.
Absolutely.
I need to move on to some education news. Becky Vivi, CPS, there's going to be some changes in the way that they're funding schools.
Yes.
So instead of doing it based on enrollment, it's going to be based on needs. So does that mean if you're a school that's 100% enrolled, you're not going to get as much money as you did in the past versus a school that's in a neighborhood of need?
Sure. So not necessarily, and I should say the underlying formula is still based on enrollment and how many students a building has, but they're allocating positions, and there's some formulas that they're using to, give you a core classroom teacher for every 26 students you have enrolled. But then there's all these other weights that they're putting on the need formula. It's called the opportunity index, and if you have a higher opportunity index, you get additional like per pupil needs-based funding for your principal to use to provide additional positions. You may also get, for instance, for the past few years, we've spent a lot of money on interventionists. These are people who do one-on-one work with kids who fell behind during the pandemic. Those interventionists are now only going to be guaranteed at schools that serve high populations of low-income kids, and the richer schools can choose to decide, will I pay for my interventionist out of this discretionary money, or let them loose at this point. So changes in the formula. Principals just got these budgets this week, and I think school communities, the local school councils are
still going
sorting
through
them.
The fine print. And this comes at a time where CPS is about to run out of the $2.8 billion in federal COVID relief money that they've been relying on for the last few years. I mean, it's been a fiscal bad picture there for many decades, let's say. So what does this mean now?
In some ways, the COVID money helped sort of kind of cover up the long-standing structural deficit. Officials have said that, and we did an analysis on chalkbeat.org this week that looked at every single school and sort of the amount of money that was kind of plugging budgets, and it was about 7% of school budgets on average were floated by this COVID money. And so again, they say next year they're not going to reduce the overall amount going to schools. We have not seen a comprehensive picture of the school-by-school budgets. We know, like I said, I've talked to principals, and some are saying, oh, we're breaking even. Some are saying, oh, we're losing a few things, or some have gained some things. So we'll see in a month or two when we actually get the full file, if we can wrestle it before out of a FOIA. That would be great. We're working on that. But I think the end of the federal COVID money is certainly going to be the story of sort of the summer and heading into next school year for CPS.
And the contract negotiations and what that's going to mean for
with
CPS
both
budgets as well.
CTU wanting more money from Springfield because they have big demands here, money that doesn't exist right now in the system. Before we move on to some other issues, housekeeping issues, Amanda, you were down in Southern Illinois for the eclipse. How dark dark did it get?
It was awesome. It's almost disappointing because on my phone, which, you know, you got to take some pictures and some selfies, right? It doesn't look anywhere near as dark as it was because it was dark enough that my phone adjusted to it. You know what I mean? It was that dark that the flash came on, even though I didn't mean for it to.
The crickets come out?
It was beautiful. You heard it get really quiet, in fact. It was true. We filmed the whole thing, and it's amazing, sort of a speed up. You hear it first get really quiet, and then you hear my friends and I all sort of scream with glee. It was really beautiful. It truly is awe-inspiring, and so.
And right over here,
cool
Tom
thing.
Skilling is crying.
Yeah. I was smiling, no tears.
One more issue. I want to throw up a tweet that I sent yesterday. So this is my last day here. After a couple of years with WTTW.
Now the tears come.
I walked in as an intern, and so in jest, I thought it would be funny to put up a tweet of our great security guard Jim escorting me out. It was a joke. I'm not being escorted out. I was surprised at how many people took that seriously. I thought it would be funny, but no. They're going to escort me out tonight. They're asking me out tonight.
That's right.
They didn't have anyone to do this show.
We're going to escort you out.
So they said, come on back.
Toast you out.
Yeah. So we're gonna get to some of that in just a bit. Right now, our thanks to Amanda Vinicky, Laura Washington, Becky Vivi, and Rick Pearson. As I just mentioned, today is my final day at WTTW. Whoa! But don't go anywhere yet. I still have to say goodbye. And a special guest joins us next to help send me off.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family. The Polk Brothers Foundation. Additional support is provided by
Joining us now is my longtime partner in crime, Brandis Friedman. Welcome to the Week in Review.
Thank you. What happens here? I'm not familiar. Hello, everybody. I know I'm the special guest. So Paris, as you mentioned, of course, we all know it is Paris's last day hosting Week in Review. And so for some good fun, we'll talk about it more in a little bit, but for fun, we did capture just a tiny sampling of your WTTW body of work. I've seen it. It's so good. Let's start at the very beginning.
Paris Schutz. First of all, the people should know that you're an intern here, and you have some thoughts about this, and which is one of the reasons we invited you.
Everything is geared towards sex. You go to a bar and you listen to music with sexually explicit lyrics, and you see this dancing, grinding. That's like the dance. That's what people do. They grind, and it makes, Elvis swiveling his hips look like it's something your grandma does at her 100th birthday party.
Yep, that's Baby Paris appearing on Chicago Tonight for the very first time back when he was an intern in 2005. And yes, the conversation was about sex on campus. It wasn't long before Paris was hired, and a few short years later began reporting stories like his first one about a young pilot and scientist.
One of this amazing young 14-year-old's ideas has even caught the attention of Homeland Security.
And Paris never looked back. By the way, more about that young scientist in a bit. Many of Paris's early stories were features, introducing us to interesting people from around the Chicago area.
Willie says that if you can learn to make a puppy, you can eventually do something like this. I would beg to differ with him.
Paris quickly became a mainstay on the air, covering breaking news and eventually graduating to doing on-set interviews like this one, his first on Chicago Tonight with the late comedian Richard Lewis.
Richard Lewis, it is a pleasure to have you back to Chicago Tonight.
But I wouldn't miss you or PBS.
Paris's reporting took him around the state and the region, where he proved game for trying just about anything.
Here we go. Carpe diem.
But while a good carp sandwich might make Paris happy, his real bread and butter is political reporting.
It's really the Super Bowl of politics.
From the city council to state and national government, Paris breaks stories and also gets politicians to open up with his straightforward style and focus on fairness.
About that poll from Ogden and Fry, why do you believe so many people now are calling for your resignation?
Well, Paris, I've been in public life a long time.
Relationships built on mutual respect.
We only have about 30 seconds left, and this is possible.
I have a 45-second answer.
Paris's passion for politics may only be matched by his passion for music. Here he is playing on the show with Rolling Stones touring bassist Daryl Jones. And along with a member of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, he co-wrote our Old Chicago Tonight theme song. Back on the air, perhaps Paris's most important assignment was coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman here in our Northwest Side studio.
And I'm Paris Schutz reporting live from Chicago's Chinatown community.
In our COVID Across Chicago series, Paris co-anchored our program from a different Chicago community or suburb every day for 3 months. We were among the first to report on the disproportionate impact the pandemic was having among communities of color.
Thank you, Phil. And as I mentioned, I'm broadcasting from home. My guests are coming to us via video conferencing technology, and they are Mike Flannery of Fox 32 News.
And during COVID, his living room became our studio as he hosted the Week in Review from the comfort of his own home. Over time, Paris has become perhaps the city's preeminent debate moderator and one of its most respected journalists.
Brandon Johnson, you were bringing up Paul Vallis. You need to bring up your support. The teachers union supports you. Teachers unions have provided the bulk of your funding. You worked as a teacher. You were part of the teachers union. Name specific policies for me that you differ from the CTU on.
Well, first of all, I'm grateful to be supported by working people in the city of Chicago.
So Paris, we've watched you grow up here on the air and behind the scenes. And remember that wherever you go, WTTW will always be your home.
For Chicago Tonight, this is Paris Schutz.
I told you it was good.
Thank you.
That hair.
I guess I got a new hair stylist over the years. Wow, thank you for that. Thank you for unearthing that clip of me and Daryl Jones doing that jam. That was a highlight. That was so much fun. Because I was actually just, he was going to be on the show, and I'm in here just like playing the piano, and he comes in, he's like, hey man, that's pretty good. You want to jam with us? It's like, me? Come on,
what
you know.
A story.
But
yes, the answer is yes.
I kind of secretly hoped that was going to happen.
Conveniently
happened to be in the studio.
I wonder if any pros will show up and ask me to jam with them for a little bit. So, of course, we also promised information about that young pilot and scientist from your very first on-camera story. According to information we found online, Sabrina Gonzalez-Postersky, she graduated from MIT as a teenager with a 5.0 grade point average. She went on to get her PhD from Harvard. She's a theoretical physicist whose work was cited by Stephen Hawking, and she was named to Forbes 30 Under 30 science list. But Paris, you know, you've come a long way also.
I told her she would make it. I said, you can do it, kid.
So, and of course, you know, while I can, I think it goes without saying
I've been
that
cited by WBBM Radio.
There you go. Exactly. So, Paris, you know, it goes without saying, of course, we will miss you here. I know the viewers will miss you. You were here when I started as a reporter, so I was able to learn from you a bit. You've always had, you know, your finger on the pulse of Chicago news, so without you, it'll be a loss for us. But especially for me, the last 4 years, you have been my partner in TV crime, my TV husband, my work husband. We know we'll be in good hands, though, with Amanda, who's taking over as the host of Week in Review.
It's a conscious uncoupling as well.
We should release a joint statement.
Yes. Yes, I mean, and so the baton goes to my dear beloved friend Amanda Vinicky. And Amanda, this is going to be your throne now.
It's exciting, but I am sad, Paris. You are my work brother, my real brother almost. And so I have such respect for all that you have done, everything except for the hair.
And vice versa. And thanks to everyone here. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Becky. Thanks, Rick, for bringing the champagne. Before we go, I want to make a couple of thoughts public here. 19 years ago, I was a college intern who walked into the best television news operation in the country. It's because of WTTW's unique mission and it's people, and there are many that I have to thank this evening. First off, my superb and talented co-host, Brandis Friedman, a journalistic dynamo with a heart of gold. Also, our impeccable photographers, editors, graphics team, crew, and director. We would not be able to pull any of this off without you. Our news director, Jay Smith, for always being a friend and supporting and fostering my growth and development and allowing me to go on the air with that haircut. Stories about balloons. Joel Wiseman, shout out to you, Joel, the founder and longtime host of this very program, who taught me that the most important thing was to keep the conversation fun and lively. Chicago politics is fun. It's not boring and dull. It's always interesting. Jay Shefsky, the best filmmaker and visual storyteller I've ever seen, who took me on my very first ever story. It was about the Chicago-based Hammond Organ Company. Mary Field, my first and longtime news director, who taught me nearly everything I know about television journalism, one of the local giants of Chicago television journalism. And another one, the late great Elizabeth Brackett, who told a scruffy young producer to steal a camera crew and shoot a story if he wanted to be on the air. And I did. Thank you, Elizabeth. And Carol Marine, the best to ever do it, for always being a mentor, friend, and the North Star of television journalism. And of course, Phil Ponce, my television dad, the first person I met when I walked in as a 21-year-old. He extended his hand to me, made me feel part of the family right away, and I have been ever since. And a special shout out to John Calloway, the founder of Chicago Tonight, whose vision we are simply stewards of here. I was lucky enough to know him for a brief period of time, long enough to be awed by the depth of his intellectual curiosity and his devotion to this mission. And lastly, thank you, the viewer, for your endless support. I am in this business for you. I always will be, and I won't be going far. So as they say in this business, stay tuned. Thank you, everybody. It's been a wild ride, and that is our show for this Friday night. Now for the Week in Review, I'm Paris Schutz. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a great night. All right, let's thank you. Cheers. Thank you all for being a part of this.
I can't reach much farther.
Oh, did we get a shot of the cake? Thank you for the cake.
Oh, I know, right? I think beautiful. Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be. There's
the
we
cake.
Go. There's the cake, I think. Oh, there's the cake.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that is proud to be a multilingual law firm that provides translators for a variety of languages.